we will go to House Bill 270, which is me. David, you can just stay up there. And Brandon Hill, you can come up as well. I don't even know who these people are. Good afternoon, colleagues. For the record, Delegate Brian Crosby here to present House Bill 270, which is Data Center Impact Analysis and Report, and respectfully ask for a favorable opinion. That is simply what the bill does. It is a study that essentially studies the environmental, energy, and economic impacts of data center development in the state of Maryland. This legislation is similar to what was passed in the state of Virginia. It is significantly pared down from that and more narrow. But I do think that as the data center sector grows, we should know specifically what the true economic impact is, and then what does that do to our grid overall, and what is the energy impact. And throughout the debates on data centers, there have been numerous promises being made. There was obviously a tax incentive last year, and really what we want to see is what are those financial benefits, and do they outweigh the cost of energy and the impact on the grid that is going to have on Marylanders. And with that, I urge a favorable report. Go ahead, Lap.
Good afternoon again, members of the committee. David Lapp for the Office of People's Counsel. I'm pleased here to be here to testify in support of HB 270. While data centers are important for our digital economy, data centers bring substantial risks to residential customers because of their high energy demands. About a year ago, PJM allocated hundreds of millions of dollars in new transmission costs to Maryland customers that were primarily driven by 7.5 gigawatts of new power demand for new data centers located almost entirely in Northern Virginia. That is more demand on our system than our state's largest electric utility. We protested those costs for Maryland customers at the FERC, but lost, and now Maryland customers face significant costs for those transmission projects. Maryland customers will bear those costs even if all those data centers never actually materialize. In fact, there is a well-documented history of overestimates of growth in electricity demand from large customers, which can drive big profits for corporations that captive utility customers pay for. We can learn from the recent FERC decision and history. While PJM bears some responsibility for ensuring data centers have skin in the game before massive investments are made, Maryland and other states can take many actions before those investments are made, as well as to influence PJM policy. More information to know what we're dealing with will help that effort, and that is what HB 270 will help the state do. Data centers must be developed responsibly, consistent with state policies, including the protection of existing utility customers. And this bill will help the state do just that. Again, we filed written comments with further information. Thank you, and we urge a favorable report.
Hi, my name is Brandon Hill, and I'm a citizen activist. First, I'd like to say I sincerely appreciate everything being done regarding the issue of unrestricted and ill-conceived AI infrastructure projects. The definition of an AI infrastructure project refers to data centers, energy generation sources, transmission lines, and cooling structures/systems. Virginia data centers are currently using over 2.8 gigawatts of electricity to power themselves and millions of gallons of water a day for cooling. On top of this, Virginia plans on doubling the amount of data centers in their state. I want to point out Virginia and Maryland fall in the same regional transmission organization footprint, which is headed by PJM. That means we share the same generation facilities to power ourselves, which are mostly located in PA and West Virginia. Keeping this in mind, Maryland is currently courting several large-scale data center constructions, such as the Quantum Loophole Hyperscale Gigawatt Data Center campus in Frederick, with more data center constructions being proposed in Virginia and Maryland seemingly every day. Where will we get the electricity to power them and the water to cool them? The trajectory this industry is on is not sustainable, and that will be made clear if this bill is passed and the study begins. I strongly urge you all to push this bill through so it can be made crystal clear the scale of the negative impacts this industry represents for Maryland as it is proposed.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the delegate or the panel? Delegate Queen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question for the sponsor. Great idea, like the idea of having a study. You pattern this after Virginia. Just a question, how did Virginia choose the universities that are involved with it? Is it just the University of Virginia or other schools invited to participate?
I honestly don't know that answer. I apologize, but if we want to include it to be more than just University of Maryland and incorporate other ones, that's fair. I'd be open to including more people.
Delegate Howard.
Thank you. Does this study preclude or prohibit the negotiations or the building of a data center until it's complete?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
Delegate Harrison.
Thank you. This is it's a 2-year study, is what, I think is what I'm understanding. It'll take place effective July 1 of 2025 and be concluded in 2027.
Correct.
Is that, it's 2 years in Virginia as well?
I believe it is.
And,
We predominantly took their language, sorry.
I'm sorry. Is it, do you really believe, well, I guess you do believe that it really it's going to take 2 years. And I guess it kind of goes back to Delegate Howard's question as to whether or not building would be prohibited during that time.
No, building won't be prohibited, at least not by this bill. No, I think that frankly, you know, if we're going to get into this game and into this business, we probably should wait to know all the factors, but that's also not a reality. And so there are, you know, the train's kind of left in some areas and it's not coming back to the station. We understand that. We're not trying to slow that down. We just want to know long-term, what are the impacts of this thing?
Okay.
And really what benefits are we going to gain?
Okay, because some of the opposition mentioned that they believe that it would slow down or delay the building and continuation of the growth of data centers. So I guess that's the impetus of the question in the 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't want to report. That could be negative for them. But, you know, if it's already, if the building's already built or the data center is already built, then it wouldn't have an impact. And then B, I would think that, yeah, there's a risk that the report would say it's going to gobble up a ton of energy and it's going to pawn off XYZ costs. I mean, at least that would be my theory, and we'll see if it proves true. But if it does, I think that would probably be used against them, right? So, like, they would probably be against the data center study if they're worried about the results, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for this panel? We do have a virtual panelist. I did not forget about you, Ms. Liu. We have Ms. Elizabeth Law, who is here to testify as well.
Chair C.T. Wilson, Vice Chair Crosby, and members of the Economic Matters Committee, I'm asking for a favorable report. I'm a professional power engineer. I was a transmission planner for Con Edison of New York and worked 10 years for FERC in the Office of Electric Reliability. I am concerned that there has not been sufficient recognition of the immense power needs of data centers. Maryland already has a power deficit. At present, Maryland only generates 60% of its power demand. Hyperscale data centers consume as much power as a small city. The first hyperscale data center in Maryland, Quantum Frederick, projected to require at least 2,000 megawatts at full build-out. The proposed PSEG transmission line will only carry This means each new hyperscale data center will need 2 or 3 such transmission lines. Without sufficient information, officials could risk making decisions that will stress the electric grid to the point of instability, change the character of the state to heavy industry, burden ratepayers to benefit one industry. Most of what has been broadcast about hyperscale data centers releases and paid for by the industry lobbyists. At present, the state does not have an accurate account of how many data centers exist, how many are projected, and what the power demand will be. The Data Center Impact Report would provide officials with accurate information from the agencies known for practical recommendations. The time frame of 15 months for producing a report and about 2 years for the full process is an undue burden on. It will not slow up any present building. Thank you. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Ms. Law. Are there any questions for Ms. Law? Delegate Adams?
For the,
Oh,
if that's
okay.
all right.
Thank you very much, Ms. Law. There are no questions for you, but there is a question for the panel sitting in front of us by Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this may be an oversimplification, but in my business, 20 years ago, we had a server, all of our computers come off the server to run the accounting program and some other applications. But I don't know, it was maybe 4 years ago, we ended up moving our accounting software into what's called the cloud, right? So the point is, I assume that we're probably talking about a data center. And my question is, I'll make a statement that I believe that we are using less energy in our business because of the fact that we really don't even need a server in our company anymore. We need computers, laptops, whatever the people are using, but we've kind of gotten away from the computer room, so to speak. So here's my question. Is your study going to look at perhaps the positive impacts of data centers in so much as it's going to change the behavior of computer usage, both on an individual or corporate basis, because you're centralizing the computing power, and basically all you're doing at that point could be just using your cell phone to do business? And are you going to be analyzing, in fact, the cost savings to the state by having it centralized that way?
So it would look at total impact of the energy. So I would think that that would be a factor that they would include. I don't know if it's going to go down to the individual computer level, but full disclosure, as somebody who builds mini data centers for very specific reasons for the DoD, I don't find what you're saying to be true. Like, you'll still have computers, laptops, et cetera, at your office. And so now, instead of just everybody storing files on their desktop, you typically store them on the cloud so that other people have access to that information. And so, A, the amount of information that we are storing as a people is significantly greater, and B, how we are storing them is different. And so I think that it's not just we opened up a data center, so now the local business takes away 2 computers. It's more like the local business still has 2 computers, and now the data center is backing up all the information on top of those 2 computers.
No, what I'm saying is that in my situation, which is this one small business, and we're not even talking about like heavy applications like CAD programming and different, I'm surely AI, is I'm telling you that I got rid of a server of some energy use.
Yep.
And we no longer need it, right? I mean, and so Microsoft, to take it a step further, I mean, we know as a state that they are, is it New Jersey or Pennsylvania, they're trying to reopen a nuclear plant just to be able to handle their future computing needs for AI. I assume Microsoft then is going to do Windows through the same general principle, which is it's cloud-based, the computing energy use, the power, the whatever that used to be locally on a computer is going to be done in these data centers, right? I mean, so all I'm saying in the study, if the bill is going to pass, is that we should absolutely be looking at both sides of the equation, not just, okay, it's going to take X amount of energy to run a data center, but what's the savings? What's the, because I believe that is going to be should be part of the study.
I would hope, and I mean, the study is neutral on it, so legislative intent, right, is that it looks at the net impact of data centers.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Aaron's.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just a quick, easy question. When this study, are you going to look into some of the policies that Maryland has regarding energy and energy generation? I know we're starting to finally recognize nuclear, we're finally looking at all that stuff, but the impact of a data center, even in Maryland, we are using more data. It's advantageous to business, it's advantageous to schools. It's a big deal for a lot of people, and it brings a lot of revenue. Are we going to revisit some of these things, or is that already in your mind?
No, it would simply look at what is the economic impact of data centers, what's the environmental impact of data centers, and what's the energy impact of data centers in the aggregate. I wouldn't think that it's going to relook at policy ABC from 2018. So
Wouldn't you agree the impact, financial impact on that would be as if we had one here, job creation, power, access to everything would be important, and the inability for us to have the energy that they require because of our, maybe because of our policies, I'll give you an out there, but that to me would be paramount, to see how we have to look at how we generate electricity in this state.
I don't think the economic impact is what you think it is, having built these things and service and maintain about 100 of them. No, it's about 2 guys for 100 data centers that we maintain. There's not this whoa and unbelievable economic
High
output.
access to information has an economic impact. I'm not necessarily sitting back saying a job creation, but the access to information definitely has an impact. The
Okay.
internet has an impact right now. I don't want to get a philosophical discussion. I
Okay.
just would hope we would include something like that because I think they're necessary. I do think that they bring revenue to the state. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay, I mean, that's why we're going to study them.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions for this panel or for our virtual panelists? Seeing none, that concludes the bill hearings on House Bill 270.